A tremendous ring to talk about on this edition, and a great guest. Tim Tebow joins Urban Meyer and myself. We're talking about that 2008 national title year down in Gainesville for the Gators. But Coach, this whole conversation it starts way before 2008, and one of the best recruiting tales you've probably ever been associated with in trying to get Tim Tebow to Florida.
Yeah, it started actually in 2004. And the plane landed in Gainesville, Florida. I'm the new head coach, and we didn't recruit Florida, so I didn't know who Tim Tebow was. And the plane lands, and I mean, I'm getting it from people carrying bags to the limousine driver we had to our AD to you have to recruit Tim Tebow. And I, like anybody else, we just finished 14-0, and you don't have to tell me who to recruit. I'll figure this out. And I started getting a little like, okay, enough's enough here. And I mean, it didn't stop. And we went on and on and on. And so we actually made a decision that we took a commitment from another player. And we almost, you watch Tim as a high school player, a lot of people say, well, he might not play quarterback. And I'd watch him compete. But then it was over is when I went and watched him play baseball. I've never seen an athlete command a field, I don't care what field, basketball, baseball, football, as he did. And the number one trait of a quarterback is a competitor, and he's the most competitive person I've ever met in my life. And so we go recruiting. We had about a 2-year behind Alabama. Mike Shula was an excellent recruiter, got very close with Tim. Tim's a great relationship guy. I'll make the story fast. He comes down to the decision day. He's going to announce it on national television. He's going to not talk to anybody. I go back and forth. Do we get him? Not get him? I'm asking his coach. I call his coach probably 150 times. His dad's not taking calls. Tim's not taking calls. Finally, it's about 4:30. He's going on at 5.
That's right.
And I'm driving home. I get stuck in a little traffic. And the whole day, all I'm getting is, hey, where's Tebow going? Where's Tebow going? I had to leave. I went and sat in the swamp on my lucky number 45 there for about 3 hours, either praying and just kind of thinking, are we going to get this guy? And I get home finally, or I'm driving home and my cell phone rings and it's Tim. And I was like, oh man, here we go. And hey coach, and he's kind of sobbing up, crying on the phone. And he said, Coach, I made a decision. And I say, Tim, it's all right. He's crying. He this kind of guy, his relationship with the other coaches. And he goes, I've decided to go. And right when he says that, the phone goes out. And I started punching the dashboard of the car, like, no. And I'm calling his dad. I'm calling his coach. No one's answering. And I get home and my 2 girls and Shelly run outside. Hey, where's Timmy going? I said, I don't know. And behind Shelly, I can see Tim walking out on the stage on national TV. And I'm thinking, that's son of a gun. At least you could have told me where he's going. And I said, Nate, let's go. We're going outside. I can't watch this. And so I didn't watch it. And about 5-10 minutes later, they all screamed running out. We got him. He's a Gator. He's a Gator. And that changed my life. That changed Florida football, and a great moment.
It was a great moment. It was a hard moment for me because, like you said, I am a relationship guy, and so it was hard. You get really close with people, and what really was the difference maker for me is everybody thinks it was Florida, and that's where I grew up a fan of, and my parents went there, and it's my grandfather's dream to see Florida win an SEC championship, and my two of my siblings went there, and yes, all that stuff mattered to me, but just because it's what my family loved didn't mean it was right for me. And I really came to that realization is when I knew I was believing in Florida for the people that were there, and specifically for Coach Meyer more than the University of Florida. And at the last second, 4:30, 30 minutes before I went on stage, I'm trying to go back and forth, and I was agonizing for days about it. And I finally was like, Dad, just tell me, where do I go? And we had made our priority lists and pros and cons and everything. And he said, all right, what's number 1 on the list? And I said, it's the people. It's always about the people. And he said, okay, I love it. You're right on. But what if it was just one person? Who would you pick? And I said, well, I love Coach Shula at Alabama, but man, if it's just one person, I think I got to go with Coach Meyer. And he said, okay, why? And I said, because when he says something, I believe it. And when he says, hey, if you come here, you're going to have a chance to win championships and a Heisman, I believe he's telling the truth because he believes it, and it's real and it's authentic. And he's willing to put in what it takes to get there. That's the difference, is a lot of people will tell you what you want to hear. He'll give you a plan of how we can get to that place where we're standing on a stage holding up a trophy because he truly believes it. He makes you believe it. And belief to me is a big deal. Shoot, it's on my shirt right now. Is that you truly believe in what you're doing, why you're there, and the people you're doing it with. And so I picked up first of all, I said, okay, Dad, that's right. I'm going to go to Florida. But the right thing was to call Coach Shula to tell him that I'm not going to go to Alabama first. And so I start crying when I'm talking to him. And it wasn't the only time that Alabama made me cry. But I'm talking to him and I said, hey, Coach Shula, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to go to Alabama. I'm going to go to Florida. He says, Timmy, you stop right there. I love you just as much now as if you came to Florida. You're going to have a great career, and hopefully I'll coach you one day. So I hang up the phone, and I look at my dad. I said, that's the coach I'm supposed to play for. I just told him I'm going to Florida, and he said he loves me. And so I'm like so torn. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go to Florida. I'm going to play for Coach Meyer. So I dial up the phone, and I'm wiping off Alabama tears. And Coach Meyer doesn't know that. He thinks I'm crying over what I'm about to tell him, but I'm really just getting over it. And so I'm like, hey, Coach, I'm coming. And the phone goes dead. And so I literally am dialing him back, and they're literally pushing me on stage. We have a full auditorium at Nice High School full of people. On one side are orange and blue, and the other side is red and white. And they're chanting and arguing back and forth. And they're literally pushing me on stage, and they're trying to mic me up for ESPN. I'm dialing him back. And his BlackBerry, no wonder it went out of business because it wouldn't turn back on. And they're micing me up. And so I'm mic'd up, and I go, Dad. And they're literally counting down like 2 minutes, and I said, Dad, I didn't actually tell Coach Meyer I'm going to Florida. I could still go to Alabama. And so the guys that can hear me on ESPN, they're like, what is this real? Like freaking out. And so they're counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we go live. And so in my head, I'm going back and forth, weighing all the pros and cons. Me and my dad's last talk. But really at the last second when they said next year, where will we be playing college football? I remember thinking about Coach Meyer, our time together, but really the belief he made me feel in what we could accomplish together, why it was meaningful for us to be together and for our time that we could do something special. And that leadership is huge to truly authentically get people to buy in. And I believe something special could happen. And so at the last second, I said, next year I'll be playing football at the University of Florida.
Coach, heading into 2008, did you consider your program as a national contender?
I thought so. We didn't have a great 07. 07, we set records on offense. Tim Tebow won the Heisman. We had very good players. Our defense wasn't very good. We went through a little bit of a transition, and defensively just weren't great. But I knew we had very good young players. I really thought Tim would be, because his leadership skills are his best ever been around. We had some ability to be great, but we didn't know that until that team midway of 08 was, I still think to this day, once again, I'm very biased. I don't see many teams ever better than that one. We're beating teams in the SEC. We're beating them by 3 or 4 scores, and I'm talking not the higher level SEC teams. So come midseason, I had a great idea that this team was going to be very hard to beat.
Tim, did you have a feeling before midseason that this team was going to be really hard to beat?
Yeah, I did. I think I really thought coming into the year we were going to be special. We had so much talent. We had a lot more character that year. We worked so hard in the offseason. I mean, Coach Mick put us through so many workouts where we were literally doing the lifts with the amount of points we gave up against Georgia, the amounts of yards we gave up. I would go in extra, and he would have different stations of different quarterbacks who had better ratings or percentages or this or that, everything to motivate our whole team. We would lift, we would train, we would come back after we finished the week on a Friday morning lift. A few of us would start coming back on Friday afternoon, and then more of us would come, and then more would come, and more would come. And next thing, on the second workout on a Friday afternoon, you would have 30 guys coming, and they were the best players on your team. And when that's happening, man, we have a chance to do something special. And I think that's where I really gained a lot of confidence, thinking this team's going to be really good. Because even young players like the Pounceys and Ahmad Black and Major Wrights, and those guys were stepping up as leaders, and that was really encouraging.
The loss to Ole Miss is one of those moments that stands out in your career, and I'm sure, Urban, in your timeline as well. So you fall to Ole Miss by 1 point. At what point did you know your now famous "I promise" speech was going to happen? Was that off the cuff, walking in, just like almost off the cuff making your college decision, or is that something that you had in your brain working prior to that moment?
Well, I'll tell you, Rob, I was so disappointed and heartbroken, to tell you the truth. I feel like I let Coach down, my teammates down, the fans down, Gator Nation down. I knew I could have been a better leader. I could have performed better. If we get beat, that's one thing. Another teams can come out and they can play a great game. That happens. That's sports. If you lose because you didn't think you had the focus, the attitude, and the preparation you needed to, that weighs a whole different form of guilt on you. And I felt that. Not to take anything away from Ole Miss, because that team had a lot of NFL superstars on it, starting with Greg Hardy, who was chasing me all day. Like, they had a lot of really good players. But I felt like there was something inside of here and in here that didn't take place leading up to that week. And I remember after the game, Coach was sitting in my locker and I was sitting on the ground leading against him. And we were just talking, and I didn't tell him this, but I just knew I wanted to say something. And more than say something, I wanted to apologize, because, Rob, I believe that when you do something wrong, you first say you're sorry and then say how you're going to make a change. And so a lot of people, they call it the promise, but it could just as easily be called the apology, because I started it out with, I'm sorry, I'm extremely sorry. Because when you do something wrong, it's important to say, I'm sorry. And that's how I started it, to the fans, to my teammates, to Coach Meyer, to everybody. And then I wanted from my heart to say what the change was and why there was going to be a change. And a lot of people say, oh, it's amazing. You promised you're going to a national championship. No, I didn't. I promised what I believe I could control, that we were going to be the hardest working team and I was going to be the hardest working player. And you were never going to see anyone work as hard as I was going to for the rest of the season. Like, that's something I could control. That's a choice that I could make, that as a team we could make. And I believe we were going to make that choice. And I remember walking out of there, and even honestly, some of the people in the room were sort of giggling or making fun. You could hear them talk. And I walk in and I get in the elevator, and I kind of have a hat on the back of this elevator, trying to kind of get away from everybody. And a few of the press come in. And I remember they don't know I'm in the back of the elevator because it's a packed elevator. And they start blabbing about this speech and saying, wow, no way he lives up to that one. Can you believe what he said? That's unbelievable. That's, and it's not in a good, they're not talking about me in flattery terms.
Coach, where were you when Tim was giving that speech?
I was in the locker room. I don't go in the media things, and I heard about it the next day, and really disappointed that, that he did that, because I seen the evolution of the media and social media, and it wasn't like when I first started coaching. I mean, it's vile. There's media members out there that their job is, the way they get paid is to destroy people. That's what they do. And I still see it. And I thought, my gosh, this is like my son. He just laid his heart out there. If we lose a game, if he stumbles, he throws an interception, you have these human beings that's their whole sole purpose, is to take people down. And I get real defensive. If it's my family, which Tim is my family, I'm like, wait a minute. But once I know it's Tim, and Tim's as honest human being as I've ever been around. And I'll tell you what, it did change. It took us a minute though. We played Arkansas the next week, and the first half was abysmal. And then we had Jeff Demps and Chris Rainey were freshman running backs. Tim was playing okay, but the team was very lethargic. It was a noon game in Fayetteville. I believe it was Fayetteville. And we just weren't playing well. And Tim, the energy guy, he's our leader. He was still feeling the weight of that loss the next week. And he drops back and he throws today one of his best passes, a bender to Percy Harvin for a touchdown. and I see him, and he's never not shown emotion. It looked like the weight of the world was on his shoulders. And I look at him, I start like trying to get him, get going, get your butt fired up. Let's get the team going. And he gives me drives his shoulder pad right into my, face. And
he goes, you chipped my tooth.
I thought he chipped my tooth. I was like, you son of a gun, And from that point forward, I'm telling you, I don't know if there's been many teams, if any, better than that team the rest of the year.
So you were actually disappointed in hearing him making that speech. That stuns me.
Yeah, that was well. You understand it's like your children. Tim's he's not a football player. Tim's part of our family, and can you imagine if he didn't do what he said he's going to do? The way not media, I shouldn't say media in general. There's a handful of people. That's what they do.
Yep.
How do they get paid? They go wipe people out, and I knew that because I seen it. I witnessed it. I had players just get destroyed by media, and I don't understand that even to this day. So that's the only reason.
Coach, let's go to week 12, Tallahassee, a beatdown of the Seminoles, a game that many people call the bloody jersey game. So what do you remember, Coach, about the bloody jersey game in Tallahassee?
Well, Dan Mullen, excellent coach, obviously. He's now head coach of the Gators, and it's a downpour. There's inches of rain, and you walk out there and it's covering your feet to the point they weren't going to call it, but it was bad conditions. The field's a mess. Tim's having a year that not many people in college football have ever had. We got a great team. And I come in and I said, Dan, I called Dan over and Tim, and I said, hey, let's get our rain plan together. And this is about an hour and a half before the game. And usually when there's, whether it be snow, rain, whatever, you develop a game plan in case it's bad conditions. And Dan and Tim look at me like I was out of my mind. I said, hey, put a plan together. And Dan looks at me and goes, we're going with our game plan. He goes, this guy can do whatever we ask him to do. I don't worry about the rain. And I was like, no, wait a minute. I just told you to do this. And then we had a conversation. I saw the look in Tim's eyes. The coordinator had that much confidence in him. We played the game, Rob, like it was 80 and sun. And I mean, it was a driving, you saw the Braveheart jersey and the whole deal. And he, that was one of his best games. He was on fire that day. The Gators were. We beat them inside out. And we played the game like it was sunny and 70.
Is that how you remember it, sunny and 70, Tim?
It wasn't sunny and 70, but I got to tell you, it was, it made it more special in those conditions. It really did, because everyone would say, okay, if you're the favorite team, the rain's going to slow you down. It's going to make it closer. It's going to make it more competitive. No. We believed as an offense that we have the footing advantage, and we were going to play that way. And let's just be honest, that game it's a different game. That is a heated, a lot of words exchanged beforehand. It's a rivalry game.
Tim, where's that jersey right now? Please tell me you didn't just throw it in the hamper and they cleaned it up.
Well, I gotta be honest. That after that season, it never got touched. It got hung up, and then we had a student body. Our student body at the University of Florida got together, and we were trying to raise funds for orphans around the world, and we appealed over and over again to the NCAA. They finally let us host a banquet. We could raise money for orphans, and so we, before my senior year, we had this banquet, and student body, student government, everybody came together, and we had a bunch of charities the whole week. And then we had the auction at the end of the week, and that jersey went for $250,000 in that auction. And then they turned around and gave it back to me. And so I still have it, and it's ready for another auction soon.
Double dip
Come
on
on,
the bloody
man.
jersey.
It still hasn't been washed, though.
Nor should it be.
Yeah.
Hands should never touch that jersey. All right, Coach, let's fast forward. We're going to go through the SEC title game. You guys took care of Alabama without Percy Harvey. BCS title game, January 8th, taking on Oklahoma. What was the approach in the game planning leading up to that one?
Well, a couple of quick stories. First of all, we went right by arguably one of the greatest games in college football history. And Tim and Lewis Murphy and that offense and really defense took over the game, and we beat
and a great Alabama team by 10 points. And then we go to play, and it kind of led up. So Sam Bradford was the #1 quarterback in the history of college football. Guess who #2 is? Tim Tebow, as far as completion percentage and efficiency. So you have 1 versus 2. Tim won the Heisman Trophy in 2007, and Tim, myself, his family, Mick Marathi, our strength coach, and Dan Mullen, we all go to New York thinking Tim's going to win the next Heisman again. But Oklahoma had one of those years. Sam Bradford had obviously one of those years. And I'm sitting right next to Tim, and it's the anticipation, and they said, and the Heisman Trophy winner is, and they say Sam Bradford. And you're just destroyed because, like you said, it's your kid. And he turns around, and he looks me right in the eye, and I won't, he doesn't cuss, but he said something that in my mind I was saying, shoot, I wish he would have won it. But inside I'm saying, okay, now I just got the most motivated player maybe that's ever put on a helmet, and game on. Now let's go play Oklahoma. They were outstanding. Gerald McCoy was a defensive tackle. They had great receivers. Gresham was a tight end. Obviously Bradford, an incredible quarterback. And leading up to the game, that was the Florida Gators were a well-oiled machine, man. There was a focused team. Percy Harvin was making his comeback. He was still somewhat injured, but boy, did he have a game. And that was, I knew it's one of those feelings you get as a coach, and I hate to say this, but if I don't screw this thing up, we're going to win the national championship. That's how I felt going into the game.
And I got to be honest with you. We didn't play a great game. We didn't execute really well. We executed super poorly. I did in the first half. Our defense executed well all game. I didn't think personally that was one of our best game plans. We had Coach Mullen just took the Mississippi State job. We thought they were going to play all 4 down. They came out in 3 down. We were trying to adjust on the sidelines. But then at the sideline in the second half, it was like, hey, everybody calm down. We still got another half, and this was our time to impose our will once again. I really think that was our mindset, and I can still remember, Coach sharing with us before the game that this is our chance to finish strong, because we would talk about it. Coach would say, hey, you know what? Talent will win you 7 or 8 games. Talent and leadership will win you 9 or 10. Talent, leadership, and character, that's going to get you to a championship. But then you have to have the character to finish strong. Do you guys have the character to finish strong? So it's kind of our mentality to finish strong. And we were one of the best fourth quarter teams. And then he said that again at halftime. And then that's kind of where I was sharing. We got 30 minutes for the rest of our lives to the team. And so it was kind of that mindset of a little bit of this is what we want. We've trained for the hardest moments all spring and summer so that in the fourth quarter, when it's tied, that we're at our best because we prepared for this moment. And I think that really showed in the fourth quarter when the game's tied. Everyone, our defense linemen, linebackers, special teams, offense, we're playing at our best in that moment. Ahmad Black making the pick, us knowing we have if we go down and score a game-winning touchdown, we win the national championship. And so I think that game played into everything we had trained for. It wasn't the perfect execution. I didn't play my best game. Offense didn't play our best. But, man, in the second half, when we needed to lock in, we needed to impose our will, we needed to find a way, I think our character came out. That was really special to me.
And I remember talking to our players about the finish strong, and also that at some point when you're in a 15-round fight, you're going to look up in the 14th round, and all you got to do is finish this thing, and it's over. And Ahmad Black, Oklahoma, we're up by 3. And Sam Bradford's driving their team, and he throws a ball, perfectly thrown ball on a bender down the middle of the field. Ahmad Black makes one of the most amazing interceptions I've ever seen. There's 7.5 minutes, I believe, left in the game, and that was that moment. I called the whole offense together, and you have the Pounceys, you have, Jeff Demps, Chris Rainey, you have Timmy Tebow, you have Coop, you have Murphy, you have these great, great players. And I get them in real close because it's so loud in the stadium. I make them all. I said, just look with me, look at the scoreboard. And we're up by 3. And I said, do you realize if we take for the next 7 minutes, you drive the ball 65 yards, you're the champions of college football, and you'll never, ever be the same. And I remember that look, and I get a little emotional thinking about it, that was over. When I saw Tim's face, and he made a throw to David Nelson, and And then the greatest ending of all, we make a decision on, and Dan called it, was on, I want to say second down or something on about the 5-yard line. And let's go ahead and finish this thing the right way. We call it a jump pass. And Tim hits a jump pass to David Nelson and the game's over.
I think what's really cool, what I want to add to that is we were a team with a lot of big recruits. You know, we had the Brandon Spikes, who was amazing, you know, one of the best linebackers in the SEC. Percy, one of the best players in college football history. A lot of those guys. But then we also had Ahmad Blacks, who came up with the game-winning interception, who played high school with a lot of great players, but was underrated, was too small, was too slow. But you know what? He came up with the big play. David Nelson, who was behind Percy Harvin and Coop and Hernandez and all these guys in front of him. And, you know, after the promise speech against Ole Miss, he comes to Coach Meyer and says, you know what? I want to do whatever I can do to play. I'll be the best I can on special teams. I got to get on the field. And that was a young man that his character said, you know what, I'm going to work so hard that – and then he got more playing time against Alabama in the SEC Championship when Percy got hurt. And so now he's in the game in the national championship, and he catches the game-winning touchdown pass. And it was like that was the feeling of our team, is our 5 stars showed up, but so did our 2 and 3 stars, because it wasn't about stars. It was about team. It was about one another. It was about brotherhood. It was about buying in. It was about believing. And that was special. Our walk-ons were just as valuable when they showed up and gave us great looks in practice. And everyone kind of stepped up when they needed to and filled that role. And that was really cool for me.
Tim, when you sit back and you look at that ring, what does that ring say back to Tim Tebow?
It says when you buy in and you surround yourself with really good people, special things happen. And I think that's what 08 was about. Is a lot of people will look and say, yeah, you had really good talent. And we did. We had great talent and great players. But there's a whole lot of teams that no one remembers that had great players. But what's different about that team is we had great coaches. I mean, obviously, you know, Coach Meyer is one of the best to ever do it. But we also had, you know, great coaches behind him, Coach Mullen, Coach Strong, Coach Madison, Coach Mickey, all of these guys that were so close with all of us. And then we had the big-time recruits, but then we had the guys that walked on that we were representing, you know, as much as the 5 stars. And early on when I got to Florida, there was a difference between the high recruits and the walk-ons. But later on, it just became, hey, you're our brother, no matter how many snaps. But you give your all in the weight room and a practice field and in training, then you're part of this team as much as Spikes or Percy or whoever it was. We were all one team, and we were buying in, and we could set aside our differences and our backgrounds and everything else. And what mattered was coming together to fulfill our mission as one. And that was a dream for all of us. And that's what that ring represents to me. You surround yourself with good people. You buy in. You believe in the mission. You come together as one accord. You can do special things.
Urban, I know you got a lot of rings in those jewelry boxes in your house. What's the special message that ring has for you?
Well, 2 things. Number one is the age-old, time-tested science and objective truth that hard work pays off. And that was the hardest working. That was a nasty team. And I mean, I had a professional scout about week 8 or 9 comes out and watch practice, and we were doing inside drill. And Tim Tebow is, you know, and it's Brandon Spikes on defense, Tim, and these great players. But I mean, it was game on. And after about 3 snaps, I stopped it. I said, we're not doing this. I mean, you guys are killing each other here. Let's save it for our opponent. And we had a big game. It was LSU or something like that. And I said, get out of here. You know, go get away from each other, because that's how good. And the pro scout looked at me after practice, said, why'd you stop inside drill? I told him. He said, I'm just telling you, Coach, I've been a scout for 30 years. You're better than most NFL teams. And I looked at him, I go, what? And he says, that inside drill, as long as he's been around, he said, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that. Where, I mean, it was like we're getting ready to play. It was 4th and 1 against LSU right there on a Tuesday afternoon. And so that's number one. Number 2 is, once again, I'm very biased, but that's arguably one of the greatest teams. I know people rank them all the time, and I've been lucky to be around some great teams. That was a great, great, great team.
I don't think that you can in all fairness, I would love to say that we were one of the best, but in all fairness is I don't know that you can put us up there because we lost the game. You know, there's a lot of undefeated seasons, but I do think you could make the argument that at the end of the year, we were really hot and we peaked at the right time. So in that form, I can agree with that point, Coach. Another thing that I want to mention that I think is really important is I think the team was special because the Tuesday morning in February meant almost as much to us as 8 o'clock on January 8th in the Orange Bowl. And it's hard, it's so hard to get there. And we were growing and growing with that. But we were constantly encouraging each other that, dude, at 6 a.m. on Tuesday morning in February, this has to be as important as the national championship for us to get to the national championship. And we had played that game over and over and over and over and over again in our minds by me telling Spikes and Spikes telling me and Major Wright and Joe Hayden and Cooper telling one another, like, watch, this is the national championship. Get on the line and race me. And if I win, I'm the champion. And we were so competitive all the time that honestly, Coach thought most of the time we were going to get hurt. And sometimes there was people getting hurt because we competed all the time at everything. And it finally got to the point where Coach wouldn't even let us do 7-on-7 against each other in the summer because he was so nervous about people getting hurt. But I think that level of intensity was it. You know, people say, is it determination? Was it perseverance? Is it leadership? And I would sum it up to say that team cared a whole lot. We just cared, I think, more than most other teams, most other people.
Few college athletes were more in the spotlight than Tim Tebow in his prime. And we all know about his personality, but Coach, I'm sure there were some elements of his personality that really only you or an exclusive set were privy to that stand out with you. What were those elements?
Oh, there's so many, but there's a couple that I'd like to share. And number one is people like Tim, at times, he's very polarizing where, you know, and Shelley's so defensive of Tim too, where someone will say something negative and you're like, you have got to be kidding me, you know, about a kid like Tim, because very rarely do you meet people that are as authentic as Tim. And he forces you to look at yourself. And at times you don't like what you see because you're not Tim. I mean, he would come grab me by the arm and make me go to the hospital with him on a game day, on a game week. And I'd like, Tim, I don't have time. And you go to the hospital and you visit kids. And Tim was created, I know this, to make people's day a little better and to witness that. And that's how he lives his life now. And then the other thing people don't realize about Tim is he doesn't lose. You know, I played ping pong with him and I beat him, but he's not leaving. And then I tried playing basketball with him once, and that's not going to happen. So he's extremely a Christian man, does the right things, but I'll tell you what, he's tougher than any human being. He doesn't experience pain. I've never seen him experience pain, including broken bones, and he's not going to lose. And every once in a while we run out of time, but it's hard. He's just one of those guys that rarely loses.
Wow. Tim, as a student athlete, how are you dragging a head coach from the University of Florida out of the coaching offices into a hospital? How in the world do you pitch that?
You know, it was so important to me, and still is, to always transcend what you do. It's never enough just to win a game. There's a lot of people that win games and lose games, but you know what? A few years afterwards, you don't always remember it. And yes, we were special to win a lot of games, but eventually one day, as special as that ring is that Coach just showed, it's going to rust. And he's going to forget it one day or lose it or pass it down to his grandkids. But eventually one day that ring's not going to be worth a lot. But man, if you can take the platform and transcend the game to something that matters, making a day brighter, making a life better, encouraging someone in need, especially their darkest hour of need. Now I transcended it from just winning and losing to something that matters so much more. And that's inspiring someone in their life. And so, you know, for me, it was just so important. If, yes, we can win on Saturday, but man, if I just forget about that on Tuesday and don't remember that I've been blessed with the platform and I want to take advantage while I have it. And we have Shands Hospital right down the road. Coach, come on. Like, does it really matter to you to make someone's day? If it does, come with me to hospital. I'll have you back in an hour and a half. We have 12 kids lined up. You know what, coach? They might not have tomorrow. You probably do. They might not. But tonight we get to make their day. And I'll tell you what, I think it made us better. Not me doing that, but we had so many guys that did that all the time. And that, I think, was something that made us better closer as a team. And I want to give Coach a whole lot of credit. Is Coach never gets the credit he deserves for the way that he invests into young men, ever, because he doesn't do it for show. But my freshman year, and I don't even know if Coach would want me to tell this, but we had a young man that lost his life. Well, actually, we had multiple young men that lost their life my freshman year. Me and Coach were very close with both of them. And I saw it eat Coach up so much, because for the 4 months leading up to it, for one of the young men, he spent every day almost with him, encouraging him, coaching him, loving him, supporting, trying to be there for him, doing devotions with him, whatever it could be to encourage that young man and who he was, that he mattered, that he was special, and all of these things. And I also know for another, young man that went through a tough time, for 6 months in a row, every day, Coach had him come to his office to do a morning devotional with that young man. And, that never gets talked about. It doesn't get praised, but I've seen that over and over again behind the scenes. And that's one of the reasons why I think me and Coach were so close, and I respect him so much, is because I've seen it and I've been there. And Coach would pull me aside and he would say, hey, this young man needs a word of encouragement. Go look out for him. Hey, go take this guy to dinner. He needs it. And that was a lot of our conversation. It wasn't just, 60 Houston or Q Power. It was, who needs help on the team? What do they need? What are you seeing? How can you help them? How can I help them? Do you think that I was too hard? Do you think I was too soft? Do I need to support this guy? It was about caring for these young men. And he didn't just talk about it, but he acted it. We implemented different leadership seminars, brought in Navy SEALs, brought in generals of the Army, not so that we just had a better team, but so that those young men, when they left the University of Florida or they finished in the NFL, that they were ready to take on life, to take on being a father, to take on being a husband, to take on life, because there are a lot of obstacles in life. And college, and especially football, can teach you and get you prepared for being a man with all the obstacles that life throws at you.
We need more Tim Tebows in the world. Tim, man, thanks for the time. Urban, thank you guys. Beautiful conversation. Loved it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys.
Download the all-new Fox Sports app now. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here. College football on Fox.